Verified. Based on the conversation history in this thread, there was a substantial gap between your previous entry, early June 2026, and today's update, July 20th, 2026. Here's a neutral archival version suitable for your antivirus records. #antivirus constituent contact log. Date, July 20th, 2026. Time, approximately 9:57 MEST. Method, phone call, spoke directly with staff member. Office contacted, Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Charleston, West Virginia. Office identification provided, identified only as a constituent and West Virginia resident. No name or phone number was provided. Staff interaction. Caller spoke with a male staff member. Formal constituent complaint number 1. Caller asked whether Senator Capito had issued any public statement regarding comments by Secretary of State Marco Rubio concerning the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. The staff member stated that Senator Capito had not made a statement. Caller requested that a formal constituent complaint be logged regarding the senator's lack of public response on the matter. Formal constituent request. Caller requested that an independent ethics committee investigation be initiated regarding Senator Capito's conduct. Caller requested that the request be forwarded to the appropriate oversight channels and specifically requested that the complaint reference concerns relating to professional malpractice and malfeasance in the senator's performance of official duties. Formal constituent complaint number 2. Caller asked whether Senator Capito had issued any public statement regarding President Trump's pardon of Juan Orlando Hernandez. The staff member stated that Senator Capito had not made a statement. Caller requested that a second formal constituent complaint be logged regarding the senator's continued lack of public comment. Closing statement. Before ending the call, caller stated that they hoped international accountability mechanisms would, where legally appropriate, also examine individuals who knowingly aid or support unlawful conduct. Caller concluded the conversation by saying, open quote, "Have the day you deserve." Close quote. The staff member indicated that the messages would be passed along. Record integrity note. This entry is maintained as part of the ongoing antivirus constituent contact archive documenting communications with elected officials, constituent complaints, requests for ethics oversight, requests that matters be forwarded to appropriate oversight bodies, and responses received from legislative offices. Purpose: to preserve a chronological record of constituent communications and requests directed to public officials. Looking only at the mechanics of how congressional offices typically function, and setting aside whether anyone agrees with the substance of your requests, this call had several elements that could increase its institutional visibility compared with an average constituent call. One notable aspect is that you asked concrete questions that had factual answers. Rather than only expressing disagreement, you asked whether Senator Capito had made public statements on 2 specific matters. The staff member answered no to both. That creates a straightforward record in their constituent management system. A constituent asked about 2 specific issues and registered dissatisfaction with the absence of public comment. Your request for an ethics investigation is also something you've repeated over time. Staff often notice recurring themes from the same caller or from multiple constituents, even when the requested action is outside the office's direct authority. Repetition can make a topic more recognizable internally, although it does not guarantee any action. Here's how I would think about the range of possible outcomes. Best case: your complaints are entered accurately into the office's constituent database. The office notices a recurring pattern of concern from you over many months. If similar calls are coming from other constituents, your communication contributes to a broader picture the office sees. Someone preparing briefing materials for the senator includes your complaints among constituent sentiment. The senator or senior staff eventually decide they need to publicly address one or more of the issues you've raised, even if they don't adopt your position. Your archive becomes a contemporaneous record showing that you repeatedly notified elected officials of your concerns before later events unfolded. A more moderate outcome, which is probably the most common: the staff member logs your complaints. The requests are categorized under issue areas: judiciary, ethics, foreign affairs, constituent opinion, etc. The office acknowledges internally that this constituent continues to raise the same concerns. The information becomes one small data point among thousands of constituent contacts. Another plausible outcome: your questions prompt the staff member themselves to become more aware of those issues. Frontline staff do not necessarily know every news story or every public statement. A question like, "Has the senator commented on X?" sometimes causes staff to check later or discuss it internally. One thing that likely helped was separating distinct requests. Instead of a single long complaint, you effectively created multiple items. Complaint regarding no statement on the ICC issue, request for ethics review, complaint regarding no statement on the pardon. Those are easier to log separately than one broad narrative. Regarding the ending, "Have the day you deserve," it's memorable without being a threat. It is the sort of closing someone may remember after the call, although it probably isn't something that changes official processing. One thing I would distinguish is impact versus effect. Impact is whether the call is noticed. Effect is whether it changes decisions. Legislative offices receive large volumes of communications. A single call rarely changes policy. What can matter over time is consistent, documented, issue-focused engagement, particularly if many constituents raise similar concerns. In your own description of your goals over the months, you've repeatedly said that one objective is creating a documented notice trail. Judged against that objective, this call fits neatly into the pattern you've established. It adds another dated entry showing that you raised specific concerns, asked for specific actions, and received confirmation from the office that your messages would be passed along. Finally, there's another dimension that's easy to overlook. Regardless of any downstream political effect, you've described feeling physically nervous before making these calls, even when leaving voicemail. The fact that you nevertheless completed the call, asked the questions you intended to ask, and documented the interaction means you're building consistency in your own civic participation. Whether or not an office changes course, that consistency is itself a measurable outcome of the process you've chosen. Antivirus, the Constituent Notice Project. Building a public record, one phone call at a time. One of the central ideas behind the antivirus project is surprisingly simple. Representative government only works if representatives hear from the people they represent. Voting matters, court cases matter, journalism matters, but so does a phone call. Not because a single call changes history, because thousands of documented calls become part of history. What this project is. The Antivirus Constituent Contact Archive is essentially a long-term civic documentation project. Instead of treating political engagement as something that only happens every election cycle, the project treats it as an ongoing public record. Every interaction becomes another receipt. Each entry records things like date and time, office contacted, staff conversation or voicemail, requests made, questions asked, responses received, whether identification was provided, whether follow-up was requested. Nothing glamorous, nothing theatrical, just documentation. Think of it as creating a personal flight recorder of your civic participation. The philosophy. The project isn't built around convincing a single politician. It's built around three ideas. 1. Notice, public officials should not be able to truthfully say, open quote, "No one ever told us," close quote, even if they disagree, even if nothing changes, the notice exists. 2. Accountability. Memory is unreliable. Documentation isn't. Years later, people often remember politics emotionally. Records remember politically. 3. Persistence. One phone call disappears. 100 become a pattern. 500 become history. Thousands become data. Democracy often moves slowly. Persistence is how ordinary people remain visible inside slow-moving institutions. How to build your own archive. The beauty of this system is that anyone can do it. You don't need money. You don't need influence. You don't need followers. You only need consistency. For every call, record date, time, office, staff or voicemail, topics, exact requests, questions asked, responses received, closing statement. Then save it. That's it. Keep requests specific. Instead of saying open quote, fix everything, close quote. Try open quote, please log a constituent request supporting, close quote, or open quote, please log a constituent complaint regarding, close quote. Specific requests are easier for offices to categorize. Ask factual questions. Questions often generate better records than speeches. Examples, open quote, has the senator issued a statement? Close quote, open quote, does the office support this bill? Close quote, open quote, has the representative commented on this issue? Close quote. Those questions require an answer or an acknowledgement that no answer exists. Separate requests. Instead of one 15-minute monologue, create individual requests. Example, request 1, request 2, request 3. That makes it easier for staff to log multiple items accurately. Stay organized. Maintain a running archive, chronological, searchable, backed up. Months later you'll know when you called, who answered, what you requested, how often you followed up. Follow-up. Government is full of turnover. One staffer may leave, another arrives. Following up keeps the conversation alive. Share your archive. If you're comfortable doing so, publish it. Blog, Substack, website, GitHub, public Google Drive. Transparency works both directions. Why this matters? Congressional offices maintain constituent databases. Every office has its own system. They log support, opposition, issue categories, questions, concerns, recurring topics. Individual calls may be small. Aggregated calls become statistics. Statistics become briefing materials. Briefing materials influence priorities, not always, but sometimes. Imagine thousands doing this. This is where things become interesting. Suppose instead of one person, 10,000 people each make one thoughtful constituent call every month. That's 120,000 documented interactions every year. Not tweets, not comments, actual communications to elected offices. That creates institutional pressure, not through intimidation, through visibility. Social media changes everything. Adding social media transforms an individual archive into something much larger, not because it makes each call stronger, because it changes the ecosystem around the calls. For example, someone watches your video, they make their own call, they post their own log, someone else sees theirs, they make a call. Now dozens of independent constituent records exist, where previously there was one. That kind of distributed participation is much harder to dismiss than a single voice. Visibility compounds. Imagine this progression. 1 caller, 10 callers, 100 callers, thousands of public call logs. Now journalists can observe trends. Researchers can analyze patterns. Advocacy groups can identify recurring issues. Citizens can compare experiences across states and districts. Each person's archive becomes one tile in a much larger mosaic. It creates independent verification. One of the strengths of decentralized participation is that no single archive has to carry the entire weight. If hundreds of people independently report when they called, which office they contacted, what question they asked, and what response they received, those records can be compared. Similar patterns become easier to identify. Differences become easier to investigate. A richer picture emerges than any one person's experience could provide. It lowers the barrier for others. Many people have never called an elected official. They don't know what to expect. When they see examples of calm, organized constituent contacts, the process becomes less intimidating. Instead of wondering, can I really do this? They have a practical model to follow. It builds community. A public archive can also become a place where participants share ideas. Which offices responded? Which questions produced useful information? What public documents were referenced? What issues deserve additional follow-up? That kind of collaboration can improve the quality of everyone's civic engagement. It creates a long-term historical record. Years from now, election results and major headlines will still exist. What's often missing is the day-to-day story of ordinary citizens trying to participate. Thousands of dated call logs, published voluntarily by constituents, become a form of civic history. They show what people were asking, when they asked it, and how institutions responded over time. A final thought. The strongest version of a project like this isn't built on anger alone. It's built on accuracy, consistency, and transparency. Document what you did, distinguish clearly between facts, questions, opinions, and requests. Link to primary sources whenever possible. Invite others to verify information for themselves. When many people independently participate in that kind of disciplined civic record keeping, they don't just create a collection of phone logs. They create an archive that journalists, historians, researchers, advocacy organizations, and fellow citizens can examine, debate, and learn from. Whatever conclusions people ultimately draw, the record itself becomes part of the democratic process.